Okay, Chair McLeod, you're live. Or sorry, Chair Madigan, you're live.
Excellent. I'd like to welcome everybody this April 4th to the Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee. I'd like to welcome Councillor Carrier. Although he served Collingwood in many capacities, this is his first time at this type of committee structure. So welcome, Chris. Welcome. So we'll start it off with the call of the Standing Committee to order. And forgive me, my glasses are no good anymore, so I just wear them to make me look intelligent. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabek, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe, and many others who were families, friends, and communities, the way we are today. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe-Ottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and the relationship it established with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. We acknowledge the reality of our shared history and the current contributions of Indigenous people within our community. We seek to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better and continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation. I am going to look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of minutes that the contents of the Corporate Community Services Standing Committee agenda for April 4th, 2022 be adopted as amended. Moved by Vice Chair McLeod, seconded by Councillor Berman. And that is just amended because we are holding this in the video conference. So all those in favor? Excellent, passed unanimously. Any business arising from the previous meeting? Seeing none. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Carrier.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. Under item 8.3, which is the departmental update discussion, which is the fire certification from Chief Parr, to echo my previous statement on when it comes to the fire service. The company that I'm employed with recovers funds for the fire service in 3 broad program areas, one of which is personnel training, and that's what this matter speaks to. I will be stepping away from any discussion on that matter.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carrier. Anyone else? Nope. Moving on. Deputations 5.1. Divert and Capture Program. Ms. Brooke Harrison on behalf of the Georgian Bay Forever. Do we have Ms. Harrison with us?
Thank you, Chair Madigan. We have Heather Sargent is going to present.
Hi there. Sorry about that.
Hello, Ms. Sargent. Hopefully you're doing well today, and I look forward to your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great. Can everyone hear me? Or can I have a thumbs up?
Yes.
Great. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Heather Sargent, and I'm the Communications Director for Georgian Bay Forever. That's a charity that works on the protection of the water. Next slide, please. While Collingwood is collaborating on several Georgian Bay Forever programs to reduce litter and plastic emissions into the aquatic environment, today we're going to focus on one source of microfiber and microplastic pollution, that's laundering clothes in the washing machine, and one diversion solution, which is a washing machine filter. I'm going to zero in on 3 things, which is a completed study in Parry Sound that shows that filters work. Additionally, I'm going to provide an update on the filter program in Collingwood. And lastly, I will discuss how these results on the filter solution are being shared to impact mass scaling of this solution. Next slide, please. Why is finding a solution to microfiber emissions from clothing so important? Microfibers are anthropogenic fibers that are less than 5 millimeters inside, and they're the most prevalent type of microplastic and other anthropogenic particle in the environment. And once they're in the environment, they're so small, they're really almost impossible to clean up. Plastic, cotton, and other microfibers from textiles contaminate the Great Lakes, deep seas, mountain peaks, wildlife, and drinking water. A few weeks ago, a study was published by UK researchers that found microplastics in the human bloodstream. While the effects to human are still being understood, laboratory studies show microfibers, including plastic like nylon and polyester, and natural anthropogenic fibers like cotton and rayon, can cause negative effects to animals when ingested and often contain harmful chemicals, some of which are known toxics. Microfibers are known to shed from textiles, including clothing, up to hundreds of thousands in one wash. Therefore, clothes laundering is a major source of microfibers to the environment. Washing machine filters are a known solution to the issue, thanks to previous work done by the University of Toronto Rockman Lab that showed washing machine filters capture up to 89% in a lab setting. And what's really exciting is Georgian Bay Forever collaborated with the University of Toronto to basically prove this in real life setting. It was a proof of concept study that I'm about to go into. Next slide, please. Published in November in Frontiers in Marine Science, this academic paper has already garnered over 5,000 readings, and the major points have been distributed in over 50 media pieces. That's millions of impressions. But we need more eyeballs on these results. We need to show that these filters are not only effective in diverting microfiber pollution land to the washing machine, but they also work at the wastewater treatment plant level. Next slide, please. How did the study work? Well, we installed filters in about 97 households in Parry Sound. You can see the requirements on this slide. In this study, there were two things that we were really looking at. All households who had a filter, we asked to collect and store the lint, and then we analyzed this lint to really understand how much we were collecting and get an idea of the microfibers that we were collecting. And the second thing, which is really important, is we measured the wastewater treatment plant final effluent before and after these filters were installed to look for a reduction in microfibers. So while wastewater treatment plants can catch a lot of microfibers, there's still millions that get out there. So it's really important to understand what the reduction is. Next slide, please. With nearly 100 filters in people's homes and in a community with just over 1,000 homes connected to this one municipal wastewater treatment plant, we expected to see about a 10% decrease in microfiber emissions. Next slide, please. Here's what we found. This plot shows the average number of fibers per liter for samples in different sample periods. 2 sample periods were before installing filters, and those are on the left, and 2 sample periods were immediately after the install. You can see the reduction visually, but to lay it out, the effluent samples collected before installing the filters contain an average of 4.6 microparticles per liter. You can see in the left that it was significantly reduced with a concentration of microparticles in samples collected after the installation of the filters being at about 1.9 microparticles per liter. This directly equates to less microfibers entering Lake Huron via treated effluent. And the results really did surprise us, being much greater than the 10% decrease. And we think some of that can be attributed to the educational programs that we had in the area to help reduce microfiber emissions. Next slide, please. Also, throughout this 2-year pilot, we monitored the lint that was captured. This is a small piece of laundry lint photographed under a microscope, and you can see hundreds, if not thousands, of these microfibers tangled up. We diverted at least 22.8 kilograms of lint. Based on our analysis, there's a range of between 28 to 423 microfibers per milligram of lint. That equates to 639 million on the low side to 9.7 billion on the high side of microfibers that were diverted. Next slide, please. Additionally, in characterizing the lint, we see a lot of microfibers, but these filters also captured other forms of microplastics like sequins and glitter. Next slide, please. And when we scale up the results, if filters were installed in every household in a big city like Toronto or Los Angeles, this would translate to trillions of microfibers captured each year. Next slide, please. So how does this relate to Collingwood? In 2021, we started our 2-year program with a goal of installing 300 filters in Collingwood households. What we collect over the 2-year period will also be weighed, and the microfibers per milligram of lint that we found in the Parry Sound study will be applied to Collingwood, and we'll know how much we were able to divert with these 300 households. After year 1, Preliminary results show a collection of 15 kilograms of lint already from about 81 homes. That's about 424 million to 6.4 billion microfibers diverted already. We want to thank all those volunteers and the 120 more who registered since then. But we do need to still get about 100 more volunteers. And we're wondering if there's ways that you can help us. If any of you would perhaps consider having one of these filters, or potentially if you could consider sending a note to your staff, I'm happy to draft one up. Your communications team has been wonderful, and I will approach them again in terms of helping to reach out to Collingwood. And we'll also put a mailer in your water bill like we did last year. But if you have any other thoughts, that would be great, because we still need 100 households. Next slide, please. Beyond installing filters, GBF does education to the public at large and to policy stakeholders with the goal of reducing microfibers. As individuals, which is part of this in our education, we can reduce our own microfiber emissions. The gold standard is definitely to purchase a filter, and the pore size is important, and the ones that are effective are on this particular slide. But if you can't get a filter, you can reduce the amount of times you launder, wash in cold water, use a front-loading washing machine, and avoid fast fashion. These tactics are important, but there are hurdles to everyone using the gold standard getting a filter. Their price is $180 to $220. They're not available all the time. They don't fit in every laundry room, and awareness of this issue is low. So we really need government policy to help staunch this pollution source and mass-scale filters. A good start is Private Members Bill 102, which was previously 279. The bill amends the Environmental Protection Act to prohibit the sale or offering for sale of washing machines that are not equipped with a specified microfiber filter, and to provide for corresponding penalties in case of non-compliance with the requirement. We're building a coalition that includes the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, other organizations, municipalities who've sent in resolutions, and lots of individuals who are writing letters to their MPPs. But I'm here today to ask you if you would consider also passing a resolution in support of reducing microfiber and microplastic emissions, and that includes support for that Ontario Private Members Bill. I sent suggested copy to the clerk for you to consider. And please know that internationally, this kind of policy is getting momentum. It's been passed in France, and there are bills that have been introduced in California, the UK, and Australia. Next slide, please. So in short, today's deputation focused on significant progress on curtailing microfiber and microplastic emissions from laundry machines. And we would ask you to consider augmenting that progress by passing a resolution that will help mass scale the filter solution and explore helping us towards recruiting another 100 volunteers. I really want to thank you for your past and ongoing support, and I want to extend our thanks to the Collingwood community for their amazing volunteerism. Next slide, please. And I'm going to come back to you in a future on a deputation on the litter captured from other different programs that we're executing with you. So thank you very much for your time today, and I will take any questions.
What an amazing right under the gun for time. Good for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Ms. Sargent. Thank you very much for that informative presentation today. And my household is one of the volunteers, and we've certainly seen the results as we pick out the microfibers after the wash. We have 3 junior A hockey billets, so we're doing lots of laundry, and so I'm very encouraged to see the results, not only in Parry Sound, but also in Collingwood, going up to 200. We need 100 more families, and I'm hopeful that we can find those families. This is important work, and as our representative on the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, I know they're pushing very hard to influence our washing machine manufacturers to make these filtration systems mandatory in each of their products. And I'm wondering if you could just give us a bit of an update on your efforts. I know you mentioned the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, but just where we are with the legislation and our efforts to try and influence the manufacturers to put in filtration systems.
Yeah, absolutely. So Right now, we're focusing on the Ontario Private Members Bill. It was previously 279, but because of process, that bill died. It was recently reintroduced about, I want to say, 2 weeks ago. And this was on the heels of us publishing the study that we put out in November. And our objective was to really publicize that. And like I said, we've had more than 50 media pieces on it, which is millions and millions of impressions, but you still need to do a lot more. So following that, we did a webinar where we invited members of the public, and I invited as many municipal members of government that I could get. And the result of that kind of public webinar, where I think we had around 200 or so registrants, was that we were also had the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative there that we're partnering with, and they were able to explain the work that they're doing in terms of trying to move the bill forward with Ontario legislatures. We're also working with them and a bunch of other different partners to get this introduced as a federal bill. That is still waiting to come. And also we have coordinated with other groups. So with the Georgian Bay Association, for instance, they have put together a template that allows people to write letters to their different MPPs to help this Ontario bill move forward. And when I've talked to MPP Bell, apparently there have been like several hundred letters received to date. So we're going to keep that up and keep pushing that, as well as there's been a couple of petitions sent in. So all of that helps to gather interest. And then we're starting to work with different groups in Quebec, for instance, who are also on this. And more recently, I'm looking into groups out west. So we're really building the coalition. And I want to say that I know of 3 other municipalities that have sent in resolutions. So that also helps into members of the Ontario government and also copying the federal government. So that is quickly in a nutshell what we're doing, but we're not stopping. So I'm going to keep building the coalition even stronger, starting with doing even more deputations like this.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. That's a wonderful answer. And I'll allow the floor to speak, but Mr. Chair, when time permits, I would like to move a resolution that this council or this committee endorse the work of the Georgian Bay Forever and the filtration project and the lobbying of the provincial government to work with the industry to make filtration systems mandatory in washing machines.
Excellent. We'll just see if anyone has any other questions or comments. Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you. And through the chair to Ms. Sargent, when is it you're coming to get the stuff that comes out of my filter? Because my freezer is getting pretty full.
Is it? Okay. We did have some delays due to the COVID, reappearance, so to speak. But we should in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I will definitely come and pick up your stuff. And thank you so much for your patience and being part of that. And we'll get on that and pick up the next stuff. Thank you.
I worry for your scientists because I have 2 dogs now. And so it's a lot. You'll find more dog hair than microplastic, or maybe not, terrifyingly enough. Thank you. And through the chair, or to the chair rather, I'm happy to second that resolution from Mayor Saunderson.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Great. I have one question to either Mayor Saunderson or Vice Chair McLeod. Just for the people out there, that if there is anybody watching this today, how intrusive or not intrusive is this to have it? Because if we're looking, as the mayor said, for 100 more people within our community, some people kind of shy away from stuff because they're not sure, how much work it entails. So you're both playing poker with me. So Councillor McLeod, Vice Chair McLeod, please.
So mine's on the wall behind my washing machine, and it's about the size of an iPad, except about 6 inches thick. So it sticks out about 5 to 6 inches from the wall, but it's about the size of an iPad. And you have to clean it out every 3rd month, maybe. I think I do it on the day I change my hot tub water, something like that.
So not intrusive whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Wonderful.
Except that I've got bags of crud in my freezer. I'm going to hand over.
Excellent. Okay, so Mayor Saunderson, you have a seconder, so now is the time to put it forward. If you would like, I see two more faces pop up on my screen. So Clerk Albus, please go ahead.
Certainly. I'll make sure, if the committee hasn't seen that draft motion as well, to circulate it to the group, and we'll accept the mayor's notice right now, acknowledging that it will come forth on April the 19th for consideration.
Awesome. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Sargent, thank you so much for coming in under 10 minutes and very informative. I appreciate it, and you did a fantastic job. Thank you very much on behalf of Collingwood and my family in Perry Sound as well. We really like what you're doing to help the Great Lakes be a better place.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, staff report 6.1, the annual report for non-standard emergency purchases. I will look to Clerk Almus to introduce that, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. So we do have a brief PowerPoint that goes together with this presentation. And before I hand it over to Manager Truman, I'd just like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of your procurement team that's led under the leadership of Manager Truman, together with the hard work of Rose Hewitson and Carly McCormick, to keep track of all of the information and number of procurements that happen when you have a municipal budget of $100 million. All right, if we can put the slide deck up. So if we go to the first slide. So again, the purpose of this presentation is in accordance with our procedural or our procurement bylaw as an informational report to present to council on an annual basis. And it's built around the following. It's any circumstances and the details of emergency purchases or non-standard procurements that have values equal to or greater than $25,000. And again, the purpose of this is to ensure transparency in the procurement process and explain the rationale where non-standard purchases may be undertaken. And at that, I will actually hand it over to Manager Truman to present the remainder of the slides, and we'll both be happy to address any comments from the public or the committee following the presentation.
Thank you, Clerk Almus. Yeah, so I just wanted to start off with kind of a quick definition. And so a non-standard procurement, even though most purchases made by the town follow standard procurement processes, circumstances do arise from time to time when approaching a project as a non-standard would be the best use of town resources or is required to by some of the particulars out of the project. These circumstances under which non-standards can occur are outlined in Schedule C of the town's procurement bylaw. Next slide, please. So this is a quick snapshot of Schedule C under the non-standard for non-standard procurements. This is out of the 2017 bylaw, which was updated at the end of last year. But everything in this report followed the settings set out in the 2017 version. That's why in brackets it says 2021. So the reasons for applying a non-standard are as followed. Either the standard procurement process was carried out and no bids were received. Only one supplier can ensure compatibility with or maintenance of an existing products and or have exclusive rights. The absence of a competitive competition for technical reasons or no alignment or no alternative supplier. Procurement involves confidential matters. Procurement of goods or services from a public body or non-profit organization, the use of the Ontario government's vendor of record program, exceptionally advantageous circumstances, procurement of a prototype or research contract, and purchases financed primarily through donations. And there's just a little note there that in the in bylaw 2021-086, we updated these allowable exceptions for non-standards to bring ourselves completely in line with the Canadian Fair Trade Agreement. And those particulars can be seen in Appendix A of the staff report. They are quite similar, but there are a couple small differences where there are either clearer languages used or different kind of methods can be approached. Next slide, please. So here are just some year-over-year stats for non-standard procurements. So in 2019, we had 14. In 2020, we had 30. And in this past year, in 2021, we had 13. So comparing the costs between 2020, which was about 2.2 million, and then compared to last year in 2021, where we came in at just over 2.1 million. This was a decrease of 6.6% in value. Sorry, that there's just some that's just poor writing. I wanted to highlight that over half of the $2.1 million that was spent on a non-standard procurement last year was for the replacement of the water treatment membrane, which was a $1.1 million purchase, and was only able to be purchased by a single supplier. So I just thought that was an interesting note to point out in these particular figures. Next slide, please. And then so for emergency procurements, similar to non-standards, we have a set of criteria set out, where we can apply an emergency purchase. And these purchases can be made on an emergency basis where they are required as a result of an unforeseeable situation or events occur that is a potential threat to any of the following. So you have public health and or safety, the maintenance of essential town services, or to prevent the disruption of essential town services, the welfare of persons or public property, or the security of the town's interests, financial or non-financial. And time does not permit the use of a standard procurement process. All emergency purchases must be reported to the purchasing division and the CAO as soon as reasonably possible. Under the circumstances and is deemed appropriate, and then members of council to be advised as well. Next slide, please. And so again, just kind of a comparison of emergency procurements. In 2019, we had 4. In 2020, there were 19. And in last year, in 2021, there were 3. And again, the estimated costs of between the two obviously greatly decreased from 185,000 in 2022 to 71,000 or just under 72,000. I also did note in this particular slide that the emergency cleanup at the wastewater facility that occurred in December 2021 was not captured in this particular report, as most of the invoicing and paperwork was not processed until January. This project, though, will appear on the 2022 report. So next slide, please. And that's it for the presentation. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Manager Truman. Very well done. I'm now going to invite comments from the public. If we have anyone who would like to speak to this, you have a maximum of 5 minutes. Clerk Albus.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. Yes, if there's any participants in today's meeting that would like to address the Standing Committee regarding this report, please press the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen. And not at this time, Chair Madigan.
Okay. I now close as a public input. I now look for request a mover and a seconder to get this on the table. Moved by Councillor Carrier, seconded by Vice Chair McLeod. That C 2022-15, 2021 annual report of non-standard emergency purchases, staff report C-22-15, 2021 annual report of non-standard and emergency purchases be received for information. Is any discussion on this by the committee? Vice Chair McLeod.
Thank you. I have a question actually for Manager Truman through you, Chair Madigan. So the very next staff report that is on our agenda addresses a $350,000 expenditure, which is not included in the budget, although it kind of was. So can you, I don't know if you've actually read the next staff report, so I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot. But I'm just wondering whether something like this, where the money was allocated in the budget and then reallocated in a committee/council meeting, and then a council meeting later on, would it be captured as part of this? as part of the report and perhaps the report for 2012 or 2022.
So, oh, sorry. May I respond?
Oh, yeah,
Chair
sorry.
Madigan?
Yeah, this
Sorry.
is Manager Truman, this is committee. It's a little bit more laid back. So please feel free to answer. You don't need to ask for my permission. It was a pretty direct question, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. Through you to Vice Chair McLeod. So you're speaking of the PRC 2022-03, right? That specific project. So that's actually a little different. That particular project was something that we actually did go out to open market for, but didn't receive anything within the budget. So this is actually a revisioning exercise to come back, talk about how we want to approach to it. And then I do believe the result of this is to go out for open bids again. So this would not be a non-standard. In similar projects like this, where we come back to either request additional funding or to kind of talk about revisioning in any capacity, as long as we end up applying a standard procurement in any way, whether it's an invitational or open market, no, this would not be captured in a non-standard report.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Manager Truman. Thank you for that report, Michael. And I'm not great at math, but based on my rough math, it looks like on a budget of 2021's budget of a little over $100 million, it's about 2.2% of our annual budget that was used for non-standard or emergency procurement processes. And my question really is that this is that non-standard and emergency transactions serve a purpose and allow the municipality to be a little more flexible, I guess, where circumstances require. And I'm wondering if you can just sort of take us through those type of circumstances. And you mentioned a number of examples, but just for the public, explain how that augments or helps the municipality deal with circumstances that arise throughout a year.
Thank you very much, Mayor Saunderson. Yeah, like you said, non-standard procurement is just another tool in the procurement arsenal, just like an open market or an invitational. The set criteria does mean that, town staff, myself, the CAO have to be aware of the project, what reasons we are looking to do, which exception, I guess we could use, we're looking to apply. And just like you said, it does allow for us to either continue to use certain type of equipment, which would be required for continuity or consistency, allowing us to return back to a certain vendor because we know that that's what works with the rest of what the town has. That's a fairly common use of this. Again, something where we do go out to market and we either don't get any bids or there are zero compliant bids. This also does give us the option of, instead of having to completely revision the project, we can talk about how we could go out and maybe acquire whatever it is we're looking through a non-standard practice as well. I don't know if there's any kind of specific examples, Clerk Almas, if there's anything specific that you'd like me to highlight. But yeah, it is a common practice, and like I said, it is an allowable exception. We need to make sure that we document these things and get the proper approvals, so that everything does, that everything is correctly highlighted and accounted for.
I think the only thing that I'd like to just add to Manager Truman's comments is that it is, as you can see, it's used very judiciously whenever it's applied, and it really has to fit into exemptions. And we have to also be cognizant when we are acquiring goods or services that good, if it means the potential purchase of other supplementary projects, that it's identified within the scope of that procurement that's being undertaken.
And thank you for that answer. I think that helps to clarify. And I guess the point that an observation I would make is that even though it may be non-standard or emergency, there is still a great deal of oversight that goes through the process, making sure that those boxes and checks and balances are still followed to allow the exception to move forward. Thank you.
Well said, Mayor Saunderson. It's always good to point out to the public that the rules are always being followed. So thank you for pointing that out. Any other questions or comments from the committee? For a good discussion, seeing none, all those in favor? Yay, passed unanimously. Excellent. 6.2. I'm assuming that Director Culver will do this. And Dean, if you kind of want to add to maybe answer Vice Chair McLeod's question? I saw you pop up very quickly and then jump off before. That would be greatly appreciated. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Chair. No, yeah, Michael said everything. I was sort of just there to support in case, it was needed. But yeah, no, we're following all of the procurement rules when it comes to any of our projects. And in this case specifically, it's not a non-standard because we will be following procurement practices to renovate the space indicated in the report. On the report, just as a quick background, Council might recall going back to 2020 or 2019, actually, capital items related to the construction of a facility on Central Park property. It's intended to replace an existing facility that's basically comprised of 2 sea cans with a timber roof over it, which have become kind of unstable and dangerous over the years and aren't getting any better. And it's where our ice resurfacer resides for the outdoor rink. We were attempting to build something going back to, again, 2019 for around $175,000 that would complement the buildings on the site. It's a bit of a mix mash on Central Park site. So we were looking to have something that would actually help to consolidate that. Did not get bids that were attractive, despite our best efforts to estimate correctly. We went back out the following year with the new information. Bids came in again higher than budget. And then this year, I would have to say with the influence of some of the supply line issues and other issues caused through the pandemic period, they were substantially higher, many-fold higher than the original budget and also higher than our estimate for this year. So I give credit to our manager of recreation facilities, Mel Milanovic, for taking a second look and saying, well, we don't really want to add to the building clutter on Central Park anyway. What are our options? And he took a look at the curling club and did some work with the curling club organization in terms of the storage that's currently there. And we've come up with a plan that actually is probably the ideal plan, because what we're doing with this plan to renovate that rear entrance to the curling club is we're actually making a building like we're maximizing the use of that building. There's less environmental impacts because we're not building new and using new materials to construct an exterior. We'll be using the existing exterior. But there is some substantial work to be done in terms of opening up the floor so we can put a proper drain in, and some electrical work and some gas fitting work for a water heater that needs to be added. But at the end of the day, I think this is absolutely the right plan, and we're confident that we can do it within the budget envelope that was provided by Council for 2022. So yeah, that's the report, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Director Culver. I will now invite comments from the public. Just keep in mind you have 5 minutes for comments.
Thank you, Chair Madigan, and we don't have anyone interested at this time to speak to this report.
Okay, that closes the public input portion. Can I get a mover and seconder on this, please? Moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Vice Chair McLeod, that PRC 2022-03 outdoor equipment storage building, whereas Council approved a capital budget of $350,000 to support the construction of new maintenance and storage facility adjacent to the outdoor rink at Central Park. And whereas all requests for tenders responses have yielded project estimates significantly higher than the budgeted amount. And whereas the town is recommending an adjusted approach that utilizes the available space within the south of the curling club, be it resolved that staff report PRC 2022-03 outdoor rink equipment storage building be received. Any questions or comments to that? Councillor McLeod, or Vice Chair McLeod, I apologize, Marion.
Not to worry. So just for clarification, I'm not sure that I saw this in the report, but I might have. Are the two little buildings that are currently in between the outdoor rink and the curling club, are they going to go then? And this is going to be, I sort of thought that, sort of thought that, but I wasn't sure.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The buildings that'll be going is the one that's sort of right pressed up against the back of the curling club. There's kind of well disguised, but there are old sea cans and some timber work around it. The building where are the washrooms and change space, and that'll all stay. That's not going anywhere. It's just the storage or little maintenance area there that'll be demolished.
Super, thank you. And through the chair as well, I'm going to actually declare a non-qualifying conflict of interest. I sit as a member of the board of directors for the curling club, but this is a non-pecuniary issue. I feel as though I can remain in the conversation. The second question that I have, though, is regarding the type of tractor that is going to be stored in this area. And as a person who uses the curling club during the winter, I'm not sure I really want some diesel fumes accompanying my raised angle takeouts. So I wonder, is it going to be an electric vehicle or is it going to be a diesel vehicle?
So again, through you, Chair, the ice resurfacer is definitely electric. Well, it will be electric. It's on order right now, so we're expecting to receive a new one towards the end of the year, I hope. Currently, it would be a propane-powered vehicle, so fumes are fairly nominal and minimum. As well, the interior work include proper buffering between the curling surface and the storage areas. So we would have a vapor barrier and whatnot. It'd be very unlikely for fumes to get into the other side. If we do park a tractor in there, it'll be powered by normal fuel. And so yes, there might be some output, but it would be very brief, very temporary. And again, with the buffers in place, we don't expect there to be any problems with the ice surface.
Thank you. And as another follow-up, we have some of the best ice in Ontario in this club, and opening doors to the outdoors would have a big impact on that. And I'm assuming that you've thought that through. Please assure me that you have.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we have been considering all the insulation properties that will need to be added. The door between the ice surface and the outdoor room would have to be insulated properly, probably replaced and insulated and vapor barriered. We've talked about, because there is a need to be able to get in there through that large door that's on the south side between the ice surface. We've talked about a temporary wall that'll be established that we'll be able to take apart at the end of each season and then replace in the following season to make sure that the barrier is in place that will both protect the quality of the ice as well as the potential for any type of fumes or any other penetration of anything into the ice surface.
Thank you so much. I am reassured.
I am glad you're reassured, Vice Chair McLeod. I have no idea what a raised angle takeout is, nor do I need to know right now, but I'm sure you can tell me later. Sounds interesting, a lot of fun. Councillor Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Culver. I'm hoping this is just semantics under number 5, effect on town finances on your report. The last sentence says, upon request, staff would be pleased to provide an update to council at completion. And I was just wondering if we could kind of get rid of that, make it automatic so that we hear about it from you before we read about it in the paper. Is that going to take an amendment, or can I just leave that?
To you, Chair, I'm happy to take the direction from, via the committee from Councillor Berman to come back with once we have all costings and just sort of assure council that we were able to come in under the budget envelope. That's not a problem. It was really more that we don't normally do that. We would, we have our budget envelope, we come in and then sort of it moves into the greater financial picture. But on this specific one, if there's an interest, we're happy to come back and report on it.
So Clerk Albus, just like a friendly amendment, not even an amendment because we haven't received it yet. Can we just take that out if that's amenable for everybody else?
Sorry, to remove it or to get the update without?
Just as Councillor Berman said, just to get it back to us.
Okay, we should have an amendment because it's not the normal process. So if Councillor Berman has a second to the amendment, we'll ensure that that's forms part of the motion that an update will be provided.
Excellent. So it looks like Councillor Carrier will second that. Any questions or comments to that? Seeing none on the amendment. Let's have a vote, please. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Berman, for bringing that forward. Especially in this election year, there's going to come a lot of stuff that's going to come at us, and getting this as a, without having to ask for it is a little bit nicer. So thank you, Director Culver, for doing that. So let's, we've had extensive discussion on this. Let's vote on receiving it. All those in favor? Excellent, passed unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it. And now we are looking at our CAO. Please go ahead and whatever you have to say, please.
Thank you, Chair. To you and the members, and as well to Councillor Berman, we do now also have our operational plan updates coming through quarterly. So if you can read the little writing in that report as well, you will see each quarter as capital projects are completed, that they are completed, or alternatively the quarter in which we think they will be completed. So I have no concerns with the amendment. I just wanted to advertise to you and the public that those quarterly updates will also be available to broadly to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Skinner. Where were you when I was a child, trying to anticipate every question my father would want me to do when we were doing a project, which was horrible. So thanks for having the answer before the question came up. Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward, reports and minutes of other committees or boards. I suggest we just take these all together. Thank you, Clerk Almas. That the reports and the minutes of the various committees and boards be provided below, be received, and recommendations contained there within. 7.1, the Accessibility Advisory Committee from March 17th. 7.2, the BIA Board of Management minutes from March 10th and March 15th, 2022. Museum Advisory Committee from March 17th, and the Trails and Active Transportation Advisory Committee minutes March 10th. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Vice Chair McLeod. Thanks for the excitement. Moving and seconding committee. You guys make me so proud. God bless you. Any discussion on this? Nope. Seeing none. Okay, seeing lots now. Mayor Saunderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I was going to ask Director Culver about 7.4 on the Trails and Active Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. I'm just trying to find that portion in it. Just give me a second here, please. Item 4.3, the update on the Maple Street Bikeway. And in the minutes, references, I know this came from Director Slama, but the minutes read that there's various concerns with staff recommending to move forward the active transportation project. And there was a lot of opposition regarding the pilot project. And then it indicated that the staff report might be coming back in April. I'm just wondering where we are on the Maple Street pilot project and planned for any future action on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the report will be coming back. I'm pretty sure it's scheduled for this month, although where we're at with it was returning to the Trails and Active Transportation Committee. We had a meeting with a subset of the total committee to sort of share concerns and develop a sort of a better path forward that we think would accomplish the community's objectives without also creating undue opposition, which may curtail or cause speed bumps, no pun intended, for active transportation on the whole. So we had a conversation. We're going to have another conversation at the Trails and Active Transportation Committee, and then I believe Director Slama and I will be able to come to council with a full report and recommended next steps for the Maple Street project.
Okay, thank you.
Just CAO, just before, I'm just going to see or is that in total in response to Dean?
That was my question. Yeah, no, thank you for that response. I don't know if
anyone else sorry, Mayor Saunderson, the CAO put up a request.
Yeah.
To speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Madigan. Also through you to the mayor. I did have a chance to talk through this with Director Slama. She's at a county meeting where they're talking about countywide water and wastewater servicing at the moment. And she did indicate that the timing to go back and talk to the Trails and Active Transportation Committee was going to push this into the May cycle. So, I mean, there's some outside possibility it'll come back in April, but I just wanted to set the expectations at May. And we are aware that this is something we'd like to act on for summer 2022, but I didn't want to, I wanted to relay what the latest state was to everybody today.
Excellent. Thank you. Vice Chair McLeod?
Sorry, thank you. I think my question's been asked and answered, but now I have new questions based on what the CAO has just said. My understanding from the Trails and Active Transportation Committee minutes was that this was that we were not moving forward at this time with this project, but now you're saying that we might see some, because we did request that the report come to SIC, which would have been today, but so we can now anticipate something coming to the May SIC.
Who would
Yes.
like to take that? CAO?
I can try that one. I didn't mean to preclude the recommendations of the report, having not seen them myself yet, at least in their final form. I just meant that we do know that SIC, which is the chosen committee, and ultimately council should make a decision before summer, because if there are actions to be taken, whatever those are, we'd want to roll those out as soon as possible. Does that help?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, remind me, did I get a mover and seconder for this? Was this Councillor Berman, Councillor McLeod, or Vice Chair McLeod? Excellent. Okay, moved by Councillor Berman, seconded by Vice Chair McLeod. All those in favor? Thank you. Passed unanimously. 8.1, Arts and Culture Center update. Director Culver, please take it away.
Sorry, I was ready to take a little video break there. Apologize. Yeah, so I have a presentation, which I believe Stephanie, I'm going to relinquish my control issues, and Stephanie's going to run the presentation for me this time. So if I could just move to the next slide, Stephanie. Yeah, so just a quick background, which you're probably aware of, but there was a 9-month feasibility study undertaken by Nordicity and completed in October of last year. It did a number of things, one of which was confirming the public interest in the development of an arts and culture center. It presented a couple of proximal sizing opportunities or options based on the insight it had gathered. And then it also provided a number of options for siting the facility. Just as basically the beginning point of starting to narrow and sharpen the spear, as it were, to get to the place where we can actually say this is what we're going to build and where and what it's going to contain. Next slide, please. It also presented some next steps for staff to undertake to, in effect, complete the feasibility assessment and help define that clear target at the end of the day, which would turn into a recommendation to council. Which council, if approved, would set us into the next phase, which is sort of the architectural phase and a lot of that sort of planning approaches that would need to be undertaken for this legacy facility. Next slide. So what we've done since then, and I'm going to speak to this in the sense of the work that's been going on, but also in the interest of ensuring the public and members of council that there is momentum to this project. We have a lot of work that's been going on, and we have a lot of work left to do. But one of the concerns that's come forward recently is that a lot of that work is happening sort of, behind the scenes, as it were, and it's in staff's hands. So this update is really hopeful to provide some of that momentum, that impetus that you can see the work happening to some extent and feel confident that nothing's getting dusty on a shelf. So what we've done initially to help us finish up comprehension of the plan and to get some more learning instilled by staff. We secured Nordicity services for a while longer within procurement policy rules and utilized an extension option to extend their services. We've become educated in Arts Center business models through discussions from Nordicity, but also reaching out to other facilities to understand how they operate. We've accessed or assessed the need for an economic impact model because there's a business case to be built around the facility. Council, if they accept the target as presented, we'll also have to take a look at the business case, which says that yes, there is an expectation that X number of dollars a year are going to be needed to supplement or support the facility, but there's an economic case that makes that make sense. So we're going to try and get some data together. We are working on getting some data together using a model called TRAME, which I'll explain shortly, and that will hopefully help us with that business case presentation. Next slide. We've been developing a governance concept, terms of reference, an initial survey tool, and this is all around developing a community task force of people representing different sectors in the arts and culture community in our region. What the goal of this is to build a way to collect more of the data to test the assumption created by the initial study and help us to get to a place where we can say with confidence, council, this is where we should go and what we should do. And then hopefully help council to make an informed and responsible decision. We've also built a high-level understanding of our local arts and performing arts capacity. It's not to say that the town hasn't been integrated with performing arts and arts in the past, but obviously with a target like a performing arts facility, a $20 to $40 million performing arts facility, it's forced us to get a lot more acquainted with how these organizations operate and what their needs might be. And we continue to kind of build on that information to help, again, reinforce decision provided to council, or sorry, a recommendation provided to council. And we've also, as mentioned a little bit earlier, we spend a lot of time, we have spent a lot of time testing some of the assumptions. So they built a model out of community consultation. It had to make some assumptions in order to make the model complete. We've gone back into the model and worked with those assumptions to test them as best we can. And again, the task force and those other parts will help us to further clarify and test out those assumptions. Next slide, please. So what we're going to be doing next is, I believe Wednesday is our target for launching the task force, or launching invitations out to a task force group. We've again built the concept of a task force out of sectors. So we've looked at things like if an individual is a performer, or if an individual represents a performance group, or if an individual is a visual artist, or if an individual is a musician. These are ways that we've used to sort of make sure that we get as much as possible, and I will say as possible, a comprehensive task force body that can help us to get the data we need in order to clean up and finish this feasibility piece. We've supported Nordicity in gathering more information related to economic impact. And again, we've settled on the TRAIM model, which is TREIM, and I will not be able to remember, it's tourism related, but it's basically about measuring economic impact of these public facing facilities, public facing concepts. We've used TRAIM to measure such things as the economic impact of the Elvis Festival and side lunch days. So we know we're a bit familiar with it, but at the same time, we also see it as being a consistent tool to use, and it's something that we know well enough to be able to trust it. We've also, we are supporting Nordicity in the gathering information from external suppliers. So this would be touring facilities, touring companies and whatnot, and helping them do that work. Next slide, please. We will be engaging department heads and especially planning and engineering for advice related to analyzing the locations identified in the initial study. Some of them we know are unreasonably challenging. So we know that we can shortlist quite quickly to at least probably about 3. But we also would like to get their advice and information around those 3 to help us again rationalize a final recommendation to council. And I've already mentioned the tree model, so we'll move on to the next slide. So as of right now, and just sort of again, in the interest of ensuring that council and the community can see that there is momentum here, we have 4 town staff who are currently included in developing this project and pushing it forward. Several are from PRC, one is from finance. We have, I think, a great team that will help us to sort of put all the parts in play. We want to be able to provide a credible and well-supported recommendation to council that you guys will be able to see as the bullseye and with all of the rationale behind it, and be able to say, yeah, we buy into that, and we see that, and we see how it could possibly work. And that would then, with that decision, we'd be launched into the next phase, which, as I mentioned, would be design, architecture, fundraising, all of that kind of stuff. Next slide, please. I will note that we did attempt to provide an expedited timeline. Initially, when we gave our report to council, we talked about taking the year to accomplish the tasks outlined in the initial study. But there was a lot of interest in the community to expediting it. Some members of council mentioned this is desirable as well. So we did try to apply an aggressive timeline. We simply found it to be unfeasible. We needed to take the time because, you know, one of the things that we acknowledge is that this is a legacy building. It'll be a building that is a facility that will be around for 50 to 100 years. And doing it quickly was not going to get us to a place where we were confident in that we'd done all the steps correctly. So we are back to our original time frame, looking at doing the best we can to make everything happen as quickly as possible, not for the sake of spinning our wheels or taking extra time that's not needed, but to make sure that we do it correctly. We're looking to get a response or a decision in front of council as soon as possible, but likely within that 1-year time frame we initially established. Yeah, so that's sort of the update. Really, we just wanted to make sure that the council, this committee, and then by association council was aware, and that members of the public were aware that this is we are pushing hard on this. I have very few other projects where we have 4 committed staff who are meeting weekly to figure out how to move to our next steps to keep testing and making sure we're doing it correctly. So with that in mind, I'm happy to take any questions on this update.
Well, it looks like you've been busy. Yep, thanks. Any questions or comments from the committee? Mayor Saunderson? Mayor, you're muted.
I can't remember that after 2 years. I don't know if any more additional time is going to help. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Director Culver. Thanks, Dean. This is a very big project. It is very much a legacy project, and I appreciate that it is not a simple one. When we look at our neighbors in Alliston, the town of Orangeville, with their theater, and up in Meaford, it's difficult to keep these important facilities going. So I just really had a question in terms of the TREAM model, the tourism and the economic impact. As part of this process, we'll be looking at trying to create a sort of a pro forma operating model to understand, what challenges are out there and what ways we can operate to mitigate those challenges and to finance them and work around them, and what the cost will be for this municipality when we move forward with this.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, that's exactly what we're looking to do. I mean, there is a pro forma that's already sort of within the initial study, very, very pro forma, very high level. We'd like to take that down to a little bit of a closer level. There is always, I can't say that there isn't going to be learning as we go through this entire process, including opening the facility and running it through its first year or 3. Those are all parts of what you undertake when you undertake any facility launch. Having said that, yes, that's a big part of it. And why the economic impact actually becomes very important is because if for example, an arts and culture facility is being supported, and we support, the town, the taxpayers support arenas, we support swimming pool. There's a lot of things that are supported by taxpayers already. And each of them, in my opinion, has a business case associated with it. It has outcomes that are expected. Some are financial, some are tangible financial, and some aren't. So I don't want to give the impression that, you know, this is an entity that ultimately will pay for itself. I can't say it will, and I can't say it won't at this point. But the goal of this program, this work that we're doing now, is to present to you a model that you'll be able to say, yep, we see where the information comes from. We see where how it's been we've attempted to validate that information. Things like economic impact are a consideration against the net cost of a building to the taxpayers. Economic impact has its own sort of philosophy attached to it, but I think that's the goal, is to provide council with enough comfort in making a decision that they can say we're good to get behind this, understanding all of the risks and opportunities that come with the decision.
Thank you for that answer.
Excellent. Vice Chair McLeod?
Thank you. I just, later today, we're going to be having a conversation about a project that some people think has been approved and that we're moving ahead on. And some people do not think that that project has been approved and that we're going ahead with. And I would like to prevent any future conversations that are similar to the one that we're about to have. And so, just for clarity's sake, through Chair Madigan, Director Culliver, this is not approving building anything. This update is not saying we are going to have a $20 to $40 million art center. You are doing the groundwork to see what might be necessary in order to decide whether or not to have something of that nature, correct?
Through you, Chair, that's very clear and well put, Vice Chair McLeod. Yeah, no, we're not. This isn't. First of all, this is just an update. This is just to let you know some of the work that's going on. So we're not asking for anything at this time. I don't know that we won't be back to you asking for something at some point in the future, because we're working within our capacities. We believe in what we're doing. We believe in the process that we've undertaken. And we're fighting hard to get it done and expedited as quickly as possible, because we know there's an eagerness in the community, an interest in the community to see this come to fruition. Having said that, every step along the way will require council decision. Council agreed to, in the report that came from Nordicity, they said, we saw the report, we understood the report, and we'd like you to continue. And so they made a decision, directed us to continue. That required me now having 4 staff committed to this project, which is a decision of council. No problem. If the next step comes along where we say, okay, based on what we've done, this is how it would look, and this is what our recommendation is, council then also has the next step to say, yes, we'd like you to proceed, or you know what, we have other priorities we'd like to focus on and put this aside for now or forever if they want to. I mean, council always has that. But each step will always be in front of council, providing hopefully a fulsome array of information, well supported, so that you can do the job you need to do, which is make these really critical, important decisions for the community.
Thank you. And as a follow-up through Chair Madigan to Director Culver, are these 4 staff members working on this full time, or this is a piece of their day?
Through you, Chair, it's part-time. Yeah, no, we don't have 4. I wish we had 4 full-time committed staff, but no, that's not reasonable or feasible. We are working at it in conjunction with our other work.
Thank you so much. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Chair McLeod, for bringing a bit of clarity to that for the public. Councillor Carrier, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair Madigan, through you to Director Culver. Dean, on the finance piece, and I apologize if this is in some background document that I've not yet read, has the province's tax regime changed to allow for small urban centers like ourselves to charge what they used to call a bum tax or a seat tax, so that the monies would be directed back to the community which is hosting the event? Or is that still just large urban centers that have that opportunity? My second question is on the finance piece. Once again, when it talks about the economic impact, they often say it's going to create, I don't know, let's say 150 jobs. Well, 150 jobs is fine if you can find a place to live. And we know we have an affordable housing crisis in our community. So it doesn't really matter how many jobs we create if people don't have somewhere to live if they're moving here. The third component on the finance part is we have a thriving arts and cultural community. It's almost like a microbrewery situation. We have a lot of micro arts and culture centers, but we don't have one great big bossy brewery running over everybody else. And you'd hate to see people, you lose a couple of smaller ones to finance a bigger one. You want everybody working in concert, pun intended, with one another to move the community forward in an arts and cultural sense. Thank you.
Director Culver? Yeah.
Thank you. And if I miss one of the questions asked by Councillor Carrier, please just remind me which one I've missed. I think the initial question was on what I think can be referred to as either an accommodations tax or a VAT, and that's come up a few times at council, the idea of applying a local tourism tax, as it were. And yes, it is a tool that's available to the community. I shouldn't comment much more than that because I don't know enough, but it has made rounds through our economic development office, as well as other departments in the town. Without putting her on the spot, may defer to CAO Skinner to speak more on it because I'm not 100% clear on all parts of it, but I do believe it is a tool. To answer your question, I do believe it's a tool that's available to a municipality of our size.
CAO Skinner?
We do have what the latest name of that is, which I think is a market destination fee. So our economic development folks are actually looking to make some recommendations on that by around the end of the year or the beginning of next year. And I understand that that can be used for marketing tourism, as well as to up to 50% can be used for other benefits within the municipality. So I think any size municipality, Councillor Carrier, could access that if it is implemented. Thank you.
And then through you, Chair, on Councillor Carrier's other question, I think there was one more. If I've missed one, like I say, let me know. But this was to do with recognition of the industry, the small industry. I don't know what the right word is, but the fractioned industry, the industry that exists within our community and makes our community very special and very vibrant, the arts and culture community. And all of the smaller entities that would be smaller than, say, a performing arts facility. This was recognized very, very early on in the work done with Nordicity, and we're recognizing it as we go through this next phase of the feasibility assessment as well, which is why an entity like a task force is really important, because we'll be pulling on those entities as well and their information. We've reached out to all of them. Nothing is hidden, or we're not shying away from the fact that we do want to understand any impacts that may occur as a result of a centralized facility. Definitely understand that the community has identified this as important, and that includes some of the smaller industries, but we want to make sure that we do everything we can to dovetail with existing models where they're the best model, and promote arts and culture overall. The goal is not to sort of win on one side and lose on the other, but to win on the whole as a community. So that's one of the reasons why this community consultation and task force and data collection from all of our local sectors is really, really, really important to our next steps.
Thank you. And through the chair, the final question was the component where we always see the economic impact statement providing jobs. If we have an affordable housing crisis, and we do, it's something that that report, I think, needs to speak to that as how to resolve it. So not on their own, but I mean, to acknowledge that that is an issue.
Yeah, so through you, Chair. So in terms of recognizing the construction jobs as part of the economic impact, we've actually separated that. We do not want to include that assumption as part of the train model, partly for the reasons you've identified, that, you know, that bringing people to the community doesn't mean that they stay in the community. Those jobs and those revenues may not end up staying in the community. It's a bit of a nebulous concept, and it's been identified by members of council in previous conversations around economic impact. So we have not identified those construction jobs as necessarily being part of the economic impact of the facility. The economic impact assessment will relate to offshoot industry, industry like restaurants, gas stations, those things where the funding remains in the region or in the community, and also any employment that is directly related to the building, where again that employment would have an economic impact on the community itself in the longer term. So I think that yes, the affordable housing problem has a play in this in terms of what is going to be the final realization of economic impact. But we've done what we can to sort of rationalize our approach to make sure that we're trying to keep it as clean as possible. And when we deliver our report, we'll identify all of these challenges to that data collection for council, so that again, you can rationalize in your own mind what the validity is you want to apply to the data. There, you know, the affordable housing thing is not something we're going to solve by virtue of building an arts and culture center, but it's something I think that you need to have in your mind as you determine what are the actual impacts, and take the information we provide and turn that into a comprehension for your own decision making.
Thank you. And through the chair, I appreciate those comments. And if you reference back to your outdoor rink equipment storage building, a $20 million arts center could now be, you know, $50 million, considering how much construction costs have gone up. And I mean, you can even apply the water filtration plant numbers as well. So something that was smaller scale last time might be considerably more expensive this time. But thank you to your team and your work. It was something decided a long time ago that we were embracing the arts and culture community, and Collingwood has been the better for it in the last decade and a half.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Carrier. I thought they were well put. Thank you, Dean, for answering them as eloquently and articulately as you did. I think just before we go any further, I think now, because Chris brought up some really good points, that maybe, Dean, is there a way that maybe now is really the time that if somebody out there feels that their company or their small facility could be impacted by this, that they can get in touch with you, get on the mailing list, get on the information list? Perfect. So should that just be at dculver at collingwood.ca with that tagline, or do you have somebody that's kind of a lead in this?
No, I'll take those emails and switchboard them accordingly. I think that's a great conversation to start, Chair Madigan. Yes, we've done I feel like we've done a reasonable job of connecting with the community, so that the community has, I should say the arts and culture communities, the community has some awareness of the intention here. Having said that, if I would never bet money on making sure that we've, you know, captured 100% of all possible inputs. And so there's a great opportunity for people to reach out and say, you know, where are we in this? And we'll do the best we can to explain. That's a value-added conversation. We totally have that all day. So yeah, dculver, I'm available through the website. You can send it to myself, yeah, Karen Cubitt, or Tanya Mazza as a way to kind of bring input in. Yeah, we'll also, through the network that we're creating in this task force, we're hoping to be able to even reach even more people through that network. So you'll likely very soon know somebody who's on that task force, and then that will be another way for you to reach out and connect to our processes.
Perfect. That was more for the fellow committee members, that if we do get these questions, because we sit on this committee, we should all just push it right to you, and then you can take care of them. This can benefit with businesses that kind of go hand in hand with these huge centers, that we might be able to attract them into our community. being the wanted place to be in Ontario. Any more questions or comments on this? We've had a lot of great discussion, and I thought Dean gave great answers. So not to put him on the spot, continue, sir. 8.2 Wilson Sheffield Community Park.
Thank you. I have another presentation that Stephanie's going to put up, and my control issues are all at ease right now. So because Stephanie's doing a great job, and I appreciate it. So this again is just a quick update on the Wilson Sheffield Park. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So just a quick background on this. It's a 1.25 hectare site. You'll maybe recognize it as being the space beside the Admiral Collingwood Public School. And it was parkland dedication associated with the Indigo Estates development. Next slide, please. It's enclosed. It's adjacent to an enclosed and naturalized stormwater management pond, and it is in close proximity to two primary trails, the Train Trail and the Hamilton Drain Trail. Next slide, please. And then council members may also recall that the naming was approved by council to recognize the contributions of the Wilson and Sheffield family to the Collingwood community. Next slide, please. Something you may have forgotten because it was a little while ago, but the PRC master plan identified the potential of this site to be a community park. There was broad public consultation around that development of that park's PRC master plan, and this site was identified as being in a good location to consider being community. So the definition between neighborhood and community, a neighborhood park is walkable and developed for the sake of a community within 400 meters of that space. Community park is more of a destination park, and you might think of Harborview Park or Sunset Point or something like that. The master plan also identified a deficiency in the supply of facilities for tennis, pickleball, and basketball. There were other deficiencies both in the mid and long term identified in the PRC master plan. Pickleball was identified as being quite an urgent need. Basketball, we have very few facilities to provide for a very quite a thriving basketball community. And tennis, it was more about a consolidation of facilities so that they could grow through tournaments and things like that, which are currently very, very difficult, if not impossible, to provide in our community. Next slide, please. So council, through the budget process, approved the funding to proceed with the design portion of the project in 2022. We've done preliminary work that basically overlaid the idea of pickleball, basketball, and tennis on the Wilson Sheffield Park. We also have identified that a neighborhood level playground layout would be required in this location to serve the adjacent community. And the opportunity that we had been discussing for quite some time is entering into what's called a joint use agreement with the Simcoe County District School Board, with the idea being that Admiral Collingwood's public or school lands could be included as a playground for the community, where currently they might get used in the off times, but it's an informal arrangement and not working within the constructs of a joint use agreement. So it's something to be discussed. We have discussed it with various school board representatives over time. We will be looking to get into a lot more work in nailing down this type of agreement in the future. Next slide, please. And so the reason why I'm here in front of you today is because there really isn't a formal process for recognizing the adaptation of a neighborhood park to a community park. And so we really wanted to make sure that council, committee and council were very aware, because we're going to go into some public consultation work over the next several months. And as we begin to talk about this in the context of a community park, we wanted to make sure that council had it top of mind and was fully aware for questions they might receive and for public awareness activity. We'll be talking about things like adjacency parking with in conjunction with the Admiral Collingwood School, which may help with their parking situation, but also would provide parking at a destination park, which is a community park, and such things as that. So we wanted to make sure that there was full awareness, even though like I said, it was presented in the PRC master plan, and that's the premise on which we're starting this work. Next slide, please. So just to quickly conclude, we're anticipating that we will include a small washroom storage facility, a neighborhood park playground, interpretation panels that identify the Wilson Sheffield's presence and contribution to the Collingwood community and heritage. And actually at Sylvia and Carolyn's request, we'll be looking at it through the lens of the Black community overall in Collingwood and the history that's been provided. There will be broad public stakeholder engagement. So normally in a neighborhood park, we would include the nearby neighbors in that design charrette. In this case, it will be the broader community engaged because we're talking about a community space. And also there will be a little bit of a tweaking of our normal process where charrette is sort of a blue sky thinking kind of a process where, you know, a lot of it is basically all up in the air, and we take all that input and then turn it into a practical outcome. In this case, some of those pieces will be in place, but things like what equipment should be purchased for the playground, what orientation of things, what buffers need to be put in place, those kinds of things we'll be seeking public engagement and advice for those as well. And then just to, again, drive home something I know council is always interested in, you will have final approval of the project via the budget discussions and approval once we're completed the design process. So we will be presenting to you what the final outcome of the design is, and then you will, through the budget deliberations, make determinations about what happens next and what is and whether we proceed into the next step, which is construction. If that were the case, then we'd be looking to construct next year. So that's it. I don't think there's any more slides. Don't remember. Nope. Okay, good.
Well done, Director Culver. You don't need that for me, but this is a really good news and probably far too long to happen in our community. So I know both Marion and I growing up here, and Chris coming in later from out east, he's informed me that we grew up with the Sheffields and the Wilsons and many of the other people that will be represented in this part. So this is kind of a neat dedication. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I managed to get the mute button done this time. But just wanted to echo your comments and thank Dean and staff for their work on this project. I know early on when I got into office, I had discussions with Carolyn and Sylvia Wilson about this episode in their life and the loss of their father. And so I think this is a wonderful tribute to Herbert Wilson and Yvonne Wilson, and to the contributions they've made to our community and the Wilson Sheffield family. So I think this is a fitting tribute and a very exciting project that'll provide a lot of important recreation, unstructured recreation for people of all ages. Since it's going to have pickleball, I guess I better learn how to play pickleball. I look forward to it. So thank you for that.
Well done. Any other comments? Excellent. Seeing none, thank you very much, Director Culver. Appreciate it. At this point is 8.3. I'm going to look to say goodbye to Councillor Carrier. Please, you'll definitely be able to speak, but go ahead, sir.
Yes, just I'm not familiar with your protocol online. I know that if I'm in a meeting with all of you that I'm supposed to leave the room. Do I just turn my video off and wait for somebody to tell me to come back?
Yeah, turn your video off and your mute button, and yeah, go make Colleen a sandwich. It was her birthday, so I'm sure you didn't forget. You forgot yesterday. Is that okay, Sarah? Is that what he's going to do? Perfect. Excellent. Okay, Chief, take it away. 8.3 fire certification.
Through you, Chair Madigan, just I thought I'd give a brief update. I meant to be to committee probably 3 committees ago, but the time and commitment and other things come forward. So I'll just give a little brief update. I know that the mayor, the clerk has received notification on this, so I thought it'd be a good time just to update the committee on the process. So 2018, the province introduced a firefighter certification program. It was met with a lot of negative feedback and pushback from certain municipalities. And I think that was basically, there was not enough information being shared to the right people of the municipality. So it was pulled at the time, late 2021, early 2022. We went out for the fire marshal's office, put this out again for a consultation to major stakeholders. And those included so that the mayor, the clerk's office and municipalities understood and knew what was going on within the certification program. At the same time, it was also taking into considerations of stakeholders like municipalities or the fire service, firefighters associations, and how can we do this, be successful, what timelines and what were involved in it. The deputy chief and myself have been on many meetings on this and listened in, and I know that the mayor was invited to sit in on a consultation process also with it. It's been very favorable. I think we'll see this come into legislation very soon. We won a lot of battles with this, and it wasn't a bad battle, but it was so we can have the opportunity to be compliant with it and at a reasonable cost or no cost to the municipality. Just last week, there was major changes announced, which was a success. They listened to what the stakeholders were saying. I can assure you that your fire service is in great shape. We don't hire anybody who's not a certified firefighter. That's both on the volunteer side and on the full-time side. So we're in good shape that way, where there might be a few changes, and I won't see it come to fruition. It'll be my predecessor, but there will be maybe some updates to establishing regulating bylaws just to cover that we're what we're saying we're doing, we're certified to do, which eliminates any liability to the municipality. So if anybody has any questions, I think there was so much out there, and you do have some municipalities are, how can we afford this? Well, it's very affordable. The fire marshal's office and the solicitor general's office are working hard with us to make it an affordable and easy task. And I believe we have 6 years from time of passing of the legislation to have requirements, certification requirements fulfilled. So I think it's an easy task, and especially in the position we're in right now.
Nice. Well done. It's nice to see that we're well ahead of everybody else. Any questions or comments from the committee? Wow. Thank you very much, Chief Parr. That's brilliant. And if we could get, thank you, sir. Thank you. If we could get Councillor Carrier back. Welcome back, Chris. So now brings us Clerk Helms.
Sorry, thank you, Chair Madigan. So this was a last minute departmental update that we did want to provide that wasn't included on here. And we do have our coordinator of community wellbeing and inclusion, Jennifer Parker, joining us today. But we thought this was a very valuable update for the committee to receive, knowing, understanding the work that the Youth Engagement Internal Working Group has been doing, and to make sure we get the word started that the community should expect a survey in the near future regarding youth engagement. So we do have a brief PowerPoint, and we'll just ask Stephanie to put it up, and Jennifer will walk you through it.
So good afternoon, everyone. We'll just move to the next slide. So I have the fortune to work with a great group of individuals, both staff and members of council. So you can see at the top there, we've got our two members of council, Councillor McLeod and Councillor Madigan, and then an array of staff across different departments, which is fantastic in terms of informing our internal working group and opportunities for engaging youth. And this arises out of a report that you might recall back in 2021, as well as alignment with our strategic plan. And so we'll just go to the next slide. So just to kind of set the stage, we thought that it would be valuable within the context of the presentation just to highlight a shared definition of what we see as youth engagement, so that we're all kind of on the same page and also communicating that with the community. So really recognizing the important role that youth play and need to play in informing and being active participants in shared decision-making across our community within the context of the work that we do under the umbrella of the municipality. And then to the next slide. So in meeting, and the group's been meeting, our working group has been meeting since the beginning of the new year, so in early February. And one of the strong perspectives of that group was to really reach out to youth, to see how youth would be interested in participating within this context. So how can we speak to the community that we're looking to work with? And so with this in mind, we had a number of different discussions about, well, what that would look like. And the decision to facilitate that conversation was to start with a survey. And so in our next slide, you'll see a little bit of a work plan that we've begun to develop, and see this as something that will continue in the future as well. So again, as I mentioned, meeting in February and establishing this great working group across departments and with members of council. And through those conversations, began the development of a survey. And right now, so we have the context of that survey and some of the bare bones of the survey. And the intention now is to have review within the working group, as well as to connect with members of various groups within our community to see what their thoughts are. So potentially reaching out to the library and to the Collingwood Youth Centre to get perspectives and thoughts and opinions with regard to some of the questions. And then the intention is to take it out to the community, to reach our individuals between the ages of 12 up to 29, so a larger age bracket, and that very much is in alignment with some of the evidence around or best practices around connecting and engaging with youth. So that's how we defined our demographic or our age spread. And interestingly, this implementation period of our survey aligns also with Youth Week, which is coming up May 1st to the 7th. And that'll kind of be that culminating of our survey and looking to the opportunity potentially to have some additional engagement pieces outside of town hall. And then with all good surveys, making sure that we share back with community and those that we're asking the questions, what we learned from the survey and how that will inform our next steps. And to the next slide. And so just some quick overarching kind of perspectives in terms of what the content of the survey is. So it in essence kind of begins with some preliminary information. This is why we're asking you these questions and really hoping that you'll have interest in engaging in the questions. And then it kind of goes into the meat of the survey, a little bit of information about you as an individual. Again, this is all anonymous, so it's not asking direct names and whatnot, but really trying to get a sense of who we are connecting with regards to the survey. And then to learn a little bit about the social and practical issues that the community, that group of those 12 to 29s are facing in terms of their experiences within the context of the community or within the context of Collingwood. And that will help to kind of inform some of those next steps. And then asking some questions around the barriers. What makes it difficult to participate in decision making and other things within Collingwood? And then how do you see what are some of the solutions? So does it make sense to have a youth advisory committee? Does it make sense to have a youth summit? So putting a couple of ideas as well as asking for some suggestions. Maybe there's something else out there that others may see as really beneficial. And then doing a bit of an innovative twist and also looking at some submissions around images or how do you see Collingwood, something that we can share back to the community and further extend these conversations. And then the last slide, just to let you know that a survey is coming out. So if you are between the ages of 12 and 29, or if you know of someone and want to encourage them to keep an eye out on our different kind of platforms, and we'll be knocking on doors and sending out a survey.
Thank you, Jennifer. What a great thing. I know that I've enjoyed it immensely, and I'm not going to speak for Chair McLeod, but I know she'll smile. It's just been so great to work with people in the community. I will say on your report, you have Marion and I mentioned under council members, and then you have Councillor McLeod mentioned under staff. So does that mean that she does twice the amount of work that I do? We all know in that committee, there's no way that Marion speaks twice as much as I do. So thanks for pumping her ego on that, put a smile on her face, and made me feel shame. No, it's a great thing for to get everybody involved. It's really cool to sit back and have some of the other people that work within our town that have young children that go to the hockey, so they see that. So Justin Crofts, one, he works in the water department. And I thought that was so nice of him to give his time to this, and to have the environmental specialist, and just to have everybody there. And I know I'm going to forego and let Marion speak to it, but I think it's great. Marion, do you want to speak to that as well, please and thanks?
Sure. Yeah, I'm very impressed to be involved in an internal group, and happy to be learning what I am. And it is sort of a big task to try to figure out. 12 to 29. I can't even really remember either of those ages, but I've been both of them, and everything in between, and the needs and the desires and the interests are so varied, even within the same year. So this is a big task ahead. And I do believe we want it to be sort of a two-way kind of discussion. We want to provide information as well as services, as well as find out stuff. Find out what the need is and then deliver on it. So I think a good start has been made, and I'm really happy to be working with this group.
Councillor Carrier.
Thank you, Chair Madigan, through you to Jennifer Parker. Hi, I'm Chris Carrier. Nice to meet you. And I hate to say it, I wasn't aware of what you were doing with the community, but it certainly sounds exciting. Way back when, in 1998, 99, we used to have a youth advisory council with the town of Collingwood. We put that together in concert with the public health people, Cindy Baker-Burrill and Penny, and I can't remember Penny's last name. I'm really taxing my brain all the way back to 98, 99. And we had some great young people working on that committee. I think of Richard and Uncle Alexa's daughter, Nina, was one of them that comes to mind. And Billy Horner is another one who comes to mind. The 12 to 29 is a pretty broad category. I have to agree with Vice Chair McLeod. There's certainly a diverse set of opinions and values within that group. And I would encourage, if you're ever looking for help, the public health officials are great people with a lot of data and information. I'm sure I don't need me to tell you to do that. The other thing is that Dalton McGuinty, when he was premier, he sent out a survey to all members of elected officials of AMO across Ontario. I want to say it was 1999, asking to lower the voting age to 16 at the municipal level. And I voted yes. And I still support lowering the voting age at the municipal level to age 16. I think these are some of the undocumented taxpayers of our community, whether they purchase services, use the services, they certainly use them, and they certainly have a lot of ideas that might push us to achieve things quicker instead of getting studies and putting them on the shelf at times, as we seem to do, overstudy some issues. So I'm encouraging you with your work. I think it's quite laudable, and I admire the efforts that are going into this. So thank you.
Jennifer, would you like to comment to that?
I look forward to sharing more information and returning back to committee and to council by extension to ensure that you're updated in terms of what we learn, and agree as well that it is a large age group. And if that potentially necessitates that we kind of divide things out, that 21 to 29 cohort of individuals is a unique group as well, and really looking to ways to ensure that we provide voice for a really shifting age and phase of life. And so I'm looking forward to returning back and sharing the great work we're able to accomplish and what we learn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jennifer. You guys, the committee, and thank Clerk Alvis for being the facilitator of said committee. It was kind of, we showed up the first day, and I know originally there was 3 councillors. We didn't really know who was going to take control of the meeting, and then Clerk Alvis just kind of jumped in. And Chris, with all that background and knowledge, and your youthful demeanor, you know, all the cool kids are wearing beards now. I think maybe you should be our third committee member. You've got a lot of history back to 1999. I think in 99, Mary and I were both 16 and 19 respectively. So I put some thought into that. You do bring a lot of knowledge. And so, yeah, I nominate you. Marion seconds it. Thanks. We'll see you at the next meeting. Excellent. Thanks, Jennifer. We appreciate you. Moving on. Now, Clerk Elvis, to public delegations. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come forth for this committee and speak to anything that we might have power over?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Madigan. So we do have an attendee. If you would like to address the standing committee regarding items within the corporate community services mandate, please press the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen. And there's no interest at this time, Chair Madigan.
Thank you so much. Number 10, other business. Is there any other business from the committee or staff? Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Chris, welcome to your first meeting. You brought a lot today. We appreciate that. I'm going to look for adjournment, and Vice Chair McLeod, all those in favor. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.